what I learned about this whole ADU experience and working, with you through my parents and BuildX was it became a much bigger relationship than I would have expected. I went into it like, yeah, okay, BuildX, Buz, the builders, they're going to build a house, whatever. But because it was so important to mom and dad, and because it was such a big part of their life, you, in turn, became a big part of their life.
All right, welcome back to the Just Build Baby studio. You're listening to the BuildX Podcast, your ultimate guide to creating exceptional homes, innovative living spaces, and staying informed on all aspects of residential building technology. Today, we're excited to have Dr. Amber Bartlett in the studio with us. Amber is the owner and CEO of Dr. Amber Bartlett, business psychologist with 4 years of experience. Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I'm super excited to have you here today. So just to set the stage, so I met your mom and your dad in November of 24 at 72 Bartlett Road at our first ADU home that we built in Plymouth. And we started talking about building an ADU for them. But take me before that, how that conversation happened in your family and how that even came to be, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, of course. Very interesting story. Nothing we expected. So we're from the South originally, Southern roots. And I lived up here. I had our little miracle baby that we never expected, my son. And mom had finally, decided that she was missing out on little baby Asher's life and didn't want to miss all the milestones. And so decided that her and dad were going to move up here. So we were very excited about that. Plan was, rent for a year, determine where they wanted to be. Once they got here and, started looking, Massachusetts is not the South. Let's just say that. Pricing's a little different there.
A lot different.
And, their retirement age, looking to settle. This will be the last time. And I own 5 acres where I live, not using all of it. And I don't know, the conversation, it just, kind of happened where I'm like, things are very expensive. It's taking a while to, even find something. And I have all this land I'm not using. What if we think about just giving you a piece of it? And so didn't even know what it would look like at that time. Just knew that it kind of seemed to make sense. And, you always want them to be close and far enough away that everybody has their own space. They'll say the same thing. They don't want us knocking on their door either. And so, that's just kind of how the story, just, we kind of talked about it, thought about it, and why not? It makes sense. And I remember when we first decided, they, of course, my mom, she doesn't sit still for 2 seconds. So, okay, we've decided, let's go. I'm going to start going to look at sheds and start looking at these modular homes and, all these different options. So that's where they had started, and it was going forward. And then, I'll never forget, they went to your open house and they came home and she was so excited. And she's like, we met this guy named Buz and he has this company and they're building these homes, and so that's kind of just in a nutshell with all the boring details, how it came to be and just seemed, a better route to go. So that's where we went.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So, from that initial meeting, I'm going to pick, so Sherry's in the audience for everyone. That's who you see it chuckling in the background. So Sherry's the mom. She's in the peanut gallery. And so let's talk about the family dynamic. So, now they decide, so fast forward a little bit. So from November, I think we started meeting in January-ish, February. And, Sherry and Michael, they had put a deposit on an Armour shed, a 24 by 24 shed. And I remember that first meeting and I said, this is not going to work. We can't, this is silly. We're scrapping that. So, but tell me about the family dynamics, because now you started, obviously, now you found out what an ADU was and that it was possible in the state of Massachusetts. Actually, it wasn't.
It wasn't at the time. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't actually yet, right? When we started talking, it was still Plymouth only. And then, lo and behold, February 2nd, we knew it was going up for a vote and it had been voted on. No, it actually had been voted on. I take that back. It had been voted on, but it hadn't become law yet.
Right.
So it was due to become law on February 2nd, 2025, February 2nd, 2025. And so we were already talking, anticipating it becoming law. But tell me about that family dynamics and, what that, what I say to my customers is an ADU on property, either detached or attached, 70% of that is family dynamics, and 30% is what you're actually going to build. Right?
Yeah.
So today's episode is about the family dynamics, right? So
Yeah.
take me down that funnel, if you will, of initial thought of doing it, ADU. Take me through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, what you just mentioned about being detached or attached or detached, that was a conversation. And my parents right away were like, there's no way. Like, we're not living attached to your house. Sorry, that's too close. Like, we need some distance, which makes sense. I mean, for everybody, it's healthy, depending on your situation. And so we knew that it was going to be detached. And I think from the beginning, and I think a lot of families come up against this, whether it's children with their, old, like elderly parents or parents with children that need a place to go. You want that healthy balance of it's our space. Everybody wants to feel right, like they have their space. So you want, whether you're attached or detached, I think it's the communication about what that looks like and having that up front. Because like you said, you can go in and start building and then all of a sudden realize, wait, there's just a door between us. Wait, holy cow, that's not enough. And so, you really want to think through what you're wanting out of this whole project and what you need out of the whole project. And so my parents are very self-sufficient, very, still on their A game, if you will. And so they knew that essentially it was like building a house for them. It just happened to be on my property. And from me I was a newly single mom unexpectedly when my parents got up here. And so having them close enough to help with my son, my dad maintains my property for me. Like I'd be lost without them. And so having them there for the help when I needed it, was important to us, but that ownership of space was also very important. And so I think, even for our family, or even like you said, when you're, dealing with clients, it's all, you have to have those conversations. You have to know what you want before you get into the build. And I was against the shed too, by the way, just so you know. I was like, mom and dad, really? Like, you can't live in the shed. So I just want to clarify that. But, I think,
Two against one, Sherry. I won anyway.
Yeah, I know. Thankfully, we have a good relationship with open dynamics, but I can imagine if you were, I'm going to imagine, and maybe your clients, you have people that are kind of more forced into this, right? Like parents just can't live by themselves anymore, or
there's some of that.
Like
the biggest dynamic that I see where the friction starts is there's more than one child, right?
Yeah.
And some children are in favor of it, and some aren't. They don't. And then whose property are they going on?
Yeah.
And how that's all going to work, and responsibility now. Let's pretend you had 5 brothers and sisters, right? And you now have the only set of. Let's pretend you're all one continuous family, which is not always the case, right? But let's for this conversation, we keep it simple, right? So you have one set of parents, 6 children, right? And you decide to be, the group decision is, that Amber's gonna, take the parents and they're gonna be together on the ADU. Then it gets complicated with, when your parents get older, taking care of them, financial responsibility, but you've also been enriched on the property because now you have the ADU, or maybe you haven't. Maybe it's a more responsibility and it is a win, right? It could go both ways, right? And sometimes what I've seen is there's somebody in this other 5 that is totally opposed to it for whatever reason, and that is usually what takes it off the rails.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. What I tell people is that before you spend any money on, again, I'm happy to have a Zoom call, go on site and walk it, and, there's no charge for that. But before I say to them, listen, we're about to spend money on survey, engineers, drawing plans. Before we do any of that, make sure, let's pretend for a minute we can do it. Because at that point, I have a high probability index that we're going to be able to make it work, right? Because that's the whole purpose of the Zoom meeting, to, get high probability. Because sometimes we have a Zoom meeting and I'll say, listen, it physically is not going to work, or here's this problem, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's a small amount of time, but let's, make sure it's,
Yeah.
we want to make sure all the lights are green as much
Right.
as we can
Mhm.
before we spend any money.
Yep.
And then if we think there's any question marks, we have one in Easton right now where half of their lot is in what's called a wellhead protection district and half is out. So can we put a new septic?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, listen, let's spend a little bit of money. I think it was about $1,500 to get, have the civil engineer work with the town and get a real answer to turn that light either red, okay, stop.
Yeah.
At least we only spent $1,500,
Right.
but now we know, right? Or in this case, it was green. Okay, now we can start spending money. Because what I don't want to have people do is spend a bunch of money, $15,000, and then it can't work, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be mad at me. Hey, you're the expert. Why didn't you warn us, right? So I have these tough conversations. But before any of that happens, we have to make sure that the family's in alignment.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the conversation. And it all comes down to communication. That's really, the basic. I mean, I don't need a PhD to tell, it's communication. You shouldn't even be wasting, if you will, or using your time if you have 1 out of 6 kids that is opposed, diametrically to even this happening.
Yeah, you don't always know, though. They come out at the end because you don't know. So, not naming names, I had a mom and a daughter that I was meeting with, spent a lot of time with, literally, ready to sign, plans done, selections done, engineer, surveyor hired, as-built plans, met with the sewer department, water department, paid fees, and then we're literally ready to sign the contract because now we know it's all green, we're going to get the permit. And she says, oh, wait, I need to show this to my son. And I said, who?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying on their part. Nothing to do with you.
No, but
in
I
that situation.
learned that was a teaching moment for me to say, who else
else
is
should
involved
know?
in this decision?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Because I just was
absolutely.
on a false assumption because I was meeting with the two of them. There was no one else. And, I can get tunnel vision because everybody's,
Yeah.
moving along and it's, we're all in sync, if
Yeah.
you will. And it's everything. They're loving it. And, it's a great project. And I'm not looking for trouble, but, long story short, that deal ended up going south because we had a Zoom meeting and the son gets on the Zoom meeting and the first thing he says is, I just want you to know I'm completely opposed to this project.
Yeah.
And I said, well, okay, I know where this is going.
Well, look at you learning from that. Now you know to ask for any other future ones.
Yeah.
So, as long as we learn, it's never a failure.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
So it was, but again, back to family dynamics. So now fast forward. Now, obviously, we had some permitting issues with the town of Plimpton, right?
Yeah.
Specifically with the Board of Health. And that was a rocky road.
It was a very rocky road.
And so tell us about the psychology of that. What went on in those discussions?
Yeah, no, it was rough. It was a fight with the town, and it happens in small towns all the time. But I will tell you, one of the biggest things that I learned, if we go back to the family side of things during that experience, was to, especially in this situation, like I really had to put myself in my mom's shoes during this situation because for my part, I'm telling her, Mom, look, it's a small town. It's going to happen. Like, just be prepared. It's going to take forever. She's never been through it before. And so she's like, well, they said no again. Like, what is happening? We submitted this. It's been 2 days. I haven't heard anything, and she would get so, and then my first response is to be like, take a chill. It'll be all right. Like, I told you this was going to happen, but that's going to do nothing but cause conflict. And so it really, taught me in any situation, but in this one specifically, like I had to try to understand this is her home. Like she, I have a home. She's living in my home. And so, but this is her home. This is her future. This is the most important thing going on for her right now, as opposed to me. And so
I'm not going to call it life or death, but it's pretty damn close.
Well, no, it's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to feel homeless? Even if you have some place to stay, it's not yours.
When I met them, they were renting an apartment.
Yeah.
And at some point, they moved into your house.
Yep. Yeah. When we knew we were moving forward, it was like, well, why would we sign another year when it's going to be months? Let's just stay here. Yeah. So yeah, that made sense. But I mean, yes, your home, that's your safety. Psychologically, it's one of our basic needs. We need to feel safe. And
100%.
so that's where the home comes from. And I think that's why this is such an emotional, family-centered experience when you're talking about ADUs because, yeah, not only is it someone's home, but it's like now multi-generational homes and you have different experiences, different backgrounds. And you have to, at every level, not only include everyone in your family, like we just talked about, but you have to try to understand from their perspective a little more, than yours. And I think, that's the only one of the big things that got us through, and we still love each other and they have their home now because, if I was just stubborn and, just like blew off her concerns, that's not nice. That's not fair. And so just, really trying to remember this is the most important thing to them right now. This is their sole focus.
Yeah.
And that becomes, a big deal. So you have to have some patience that maybe sometimes you don't know you have, but you dig deep and you find it. And I think it just helps build the relationship stronger.
Yeah, so that I forgot about that dynamic. So they are actually living in your house while we were fighting that fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know I had some teary phone calls with your mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I was reassuring her that we would prevail.
Yes.
Sure.
Sure.
It was tricky though. I'm not gonna lie. There was a few stars aligned for us, which thankfully they did, and obviously the house is done. So now we're under construction. So what was the psychological ups and downs of being under construction? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I think, well, for the most part, y'all are fast, which was helpful. I couldn't believe how fast. And our neighbors were like, wait a second, what's happening? There's dirt. Wait, there's a foundation. Wait, what? There's walls. So, the kudos to y'all for being very fast because that was a big benefit of, the whole process because it can take forever to build a house. So that was pleasant. So my parents love my parents. They are doers, right? They've grown up. My dad, handy person. He can build and do anything. And so again, this was their last home, which is very important, right? This is my last stop. Like this is, our forever home is what mom calls it. And so they wanted everything to be perfect. Mom wants everything to be perfect. And they wanted their touch in it. And so I'm not going to get into I call it the Bartlett debacle with BuildX, where, whatever, they were going to do things themselves, miscommunication, whatever. We can go into that later. But I think the hardest part, again, of that.
No, let's expand on that for a minute. So no, it's good stuff. And again, I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Oh, I'm not either. But.
So, no, I know. But, some builders don't talk about the things that don't go well. And what I joke with Sherry all the time is she cured me of ever doing that again. So
Exactly. It was a one and done.
Yeah.
See, you learn. You're such a learnable person, Buzz. I'm really impressed
right now. I'm a work in progress. So just to set the stage, the deal, if you may, because your dad is handy.
Yeah.
When I initially met with them, they said, well, we want you to get it to plaster. And then we're going to take over the finishes. Mm-hmm. I said, and I remember specifically saying, listen, it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Like, even though it's only 900, well, actually, in her case, only 750 square feet, it's still a lot. Mm-hmm. You have to paint, you have to hang trim and cabinets and coordinate all this stuff. And we would still be there to do the finished mechanicals. Mm-hmm. But, there's a lot of responsibility. And I said to them at the time, I think this is a mistake. And it turned out to be a mistake because they got overwhelmed. And then, we needed to jump back in. And I think we could have done a better job jumping back in. Mm-hmm. But it's a fine line because you don't want to say to somebody, hey, get out of my way. I told you not to do this. Mm-hmm. Right. So in the beginning, I was kind of going easy and coaching, if you will. And then finally, I'm like, that's it. I'm taking over. Get out of my way. I'm going to finish this thing. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm cured of that.
Never happened.
I'm a survivor. But it could, again, I think that added undue stress to the project.
Well, and I think it comes back again to communication, because like what you just described, that was your experience. If I were to sit down with mom and dad, they have a very different experience.
100%. No, Sherry and I have talked about it.
Yeah, and I think it's fine. Like you said, never do it again, whatever, move on.
Yeah, and the job's done and they're happy.
They love it. But, it just highlights, again, the importance. And so when you ask, what was that experience? It was stressful and it
100%.
Was emotional.
Yeah.
And,
that part of it, yeah.
Yeah, just that part of it. But I think, again, kudos to both because, again, mom is not one that will just let anything go. And so she was determined that, she valued her relationship with you. And I think that was the other thing, you know, yes, family dynamics, but I think what I learned about this whole ADU experience and working, with you through my parents and BuildX was it became a much bigger relationship than I would have expected. I went into it like, yeah, okay, BuildX, Buzz, the builders, they're going to build a house, whatever. But because it was so important to mom and dad, and because it was such a big part of their life, you in turn became a big part of their life. And so I think that's also important, to recognize as part of this process. You're not. And I mean, I'm just saying from my experience, I don't know how other builders are. I only know you. And but the value of feeling like you had someone in your corner, like mom would get so excited. Buzz is coming by. Buzz is going to come by and see. Buzz is coming by to check. That was important to her because she valued her relationship
Yep.
with you as well as the product that you were providing her. And so that was just a dynamic that I didn't expect, I guess, that I learned going through. And like I said, I don't know if everyone does it that way, but
No, I unfortunately they don't. And I think that's one of our, hidden values, if
yeah,
you will, or hidden
differentiator.
talents. And that's why we assign a dedicated project manager
Mm-hmm.
to every project so that they understand that continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very evident when you hear our testimonials. They talk
Mm-hmm.
extensively about myself, but they also talk a lot about that project manager that
Yeah.
handled their project
It's
from
the
start to
continuity. It's knowing that they
100%.
have someone
100%.
because they don't, nobody. I mean, you don't know what you're doing. If I'm
Yeah.
building a house, I'm reliant on you
Yeah.
and I'm investing a ton of my money with you. And
100%.
so it makes a
Especially like you
difference.
said, it's not like you're 20 years old and you're like, I'll do it again, whatever.
Exactly.
This is a
Like, this
do-over.
is it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is your last hurrah.
Hmm.
Right. And that's why we have to spend so much time on that pre-construction,
Yeah.
talking about armor sheds and why they're not a good idea, and then pivoting into something that's actually going to work for them long term.
Yeah.
Because, I have to have a lot of, sometimes tough
Yeah.
conversations with customers because they're not thinking clearly about the long term, because the goal is to stay there for as long as you possibly can,
Hmm.
you know, um, and sometimes I have to say to them, listen, this bathroom is fine for today, but someday, listen, hopefully it never happens, right? You just don't wake up one day, but
Yeah.
it's at some point you're going to have trouble with this bathroom.
Hmm.
And what I don't want to do is have you call me 10 years from now and say, bring the crew. We need to rip the doors
Yeah.
down and change the bathroom and take the Sawzall to my beautiful house.
Hmm.
Right? Let's make it look awesome now, but make it functional.
Functional for long term.
Because it's funny. I have people come to the home tour and they're like, this bathroom's so big. And I'm like, well, someday you're going to be glad of that.
Yes. When
Right?
you have to get in there and turn around in
Yeah.
the chair. Yeah.
You're gonna say, gee, I'm glad it's as big as it is.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not gonna get off the topic here, but I see some of these plans online with the toilet shoved up against the tub, and there's a little teeny vanity and a 2.6 door or a 2.4 door, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
great when you're 20 years old, not
Yeah.
when you're 60, 70, 80, 90 years old.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to use that.
Exactly.
And you're going to be miserable, and it costs the same amount of money to poorly
Do it,
build
yeah.
something, poorly designed. Maybe it's still built right, but poorly designed
Designed.
something versus having those, uncomfortable conversations
Yeah.
up front. And it's hard for people because listen, no one wants to be told you're not going to be able to do what you do today forever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right.
Nobody likes to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than you're doing something for a job, and then one day they tell you, listen, you stink at your job, you're too old to
Can't
do
do it
the
anymore.
whatever it is, your back's
Forced
blown out, or
Yeah.
you're a sports player and now your contract doesn't get renewed, right? And
Yeah.
now you're like, okay, I guess I
Mhm.
can't do that anymore,
Yeah.
right? And so nobody likes that.
No.
And especially when you get older, you're like, you don't want to think about the day when you not be able to get in the tub.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm curious if I can ask you, like, working with so many clients or potential clients that you have, what have you found to be the most common, like, family dynamic struggle? Is there one that sticks out?
Yeah, 100%. Uh, and here's the top three.
Okay.
There's no and I think it's different for every family.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I learned is that there's a big financial component to this, but not the expense of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
It's more I'm just going to pick on your scenario. So the day that we built that ADU and your parents moved in, if, I know you did some magic behind the scenes, but,
Mm.
For most people, they don't understand or they haven't thought through the fact that they're about to, spend $300,000-$400,000 and they don't own it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that can be uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've had numerous podcasts about this, so I'm not going to belabor the point. So that's number one, ownership and continuity. Right. And then the second one is, the 5 siblings or 2 or 3 siblings, and mom and dad are just mom's left, and she's going to make a significant investment. She's going to sell the family home, most of the furniture, give it away because they're trying to downsize, right? And then they're going to put a big financial investment in one child's house. Then that child is maybe in the beginning they're not super responsible, but at some point as the parents age, they're going to have to be more responsible, right? And then there's 2 other siblings, and then at some point, unfortunately, mom's going to pass away, and now this structure is going to be there. It's got obviously value to it. It's going to be rented possibly, or maybe someone else in the family is going to move in, right? So there's a lot going on there. And then finally, the other dynamic is the parents. Actually, the parents don't want to live together anymore.
Oh no.
And
I got
so that's so that one's come up a couple times, and they actually want to.
Interesting.
So if they have 2 siblings, 2 children, and they're going to build 2 ADUs.
That is interesting. All right.
So that's come up a couple times, but I would say the first 2 are the most prevalent.
Yeah. Okay.
And that and then from a parent standpoint, and then from a young, so that's like 60-70% of our buyers, our customers. And then 15-20% is someone in the family has some type of disability that is living away from the caregiver.
Gotcha.
And that, they can't see him as much as they'd like to. They can't keep, whatever that dynamic. It's different, very dynamic.
Right.
And then the third is a first-time home buyer that has been out looking for homes. And they're like, listen, I don't want to spend $700,000-$800,000 on a fixer-upper.
Exactly.
And even if I found a house for $500,000, it's an hour and a half away from you.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere where I want to live.
Yeah.
Or it's not where I work, or whatever that dynamic is. And so it makes more sense to spend, $350,000, $450,000, have a brand new house on the parents' land. And then maybe at some point they switch or not.
Yeah.
But I think I did not understand the dynamic behind this until I had that first home tour at 72 Jordan Road. I thought I knew the ADU journey. I was completely clueless.
Yeah.
No, for real.
No, and I get it because even as you talk, I'm thinking like, holy cow. I mean, that's the cool thing about ADUs is they can have so many different purposes and solve so many different solutions.
100%. People in the beginning were like, oh, rental units. I'm like, that's like 2% of the market. Maybe when you get in the city, it's different.
Yeah.
But around here, it's about taking care of your family. Because what COVID taught people is when you're separated, you're in trouble.
Right? You need people. Yeah.
You need your family because no one else is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they got stuck with people they did not want to be stuck with. So that's
too.
Another lesson.
But we're just spoiled here because we hit 911 and something happens.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be a point where maybe that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You need to be together.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But that's
thank
to
you.
answer your question, that's the most prevalent dynamic that I see is that family. The big again, it's 70% family dynamic. Now it's much easier if there's one child.
Right. Yeah, there's situations that make sense.
And it's actually harder on that one child than it is when there's multiple siblings.
Yeah.
Now it's all on them.
It's all on you.
Yeah, and it reverses. And I had the last guest I had on a couple weeks ago. I didn't understand this, and I still haven't processed what she told me. But she told me that 40% of the time the caregiver passes before the person they're giving care to because they don't take care of themselves.
Yep, very true. Yeah, I know. It's scary.
That's a big number.
It's a big number.
That I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So there's a whole component around that, so what I say to people is I love the detached
Mhm.
because of that, it's
Yeah.
my own house.
Mhm.
Even if it's, so what I say to people is if you think at some point you need to go back and forth for whatever reason, let's just make it 10 feet
I was
away.
gonna say, make it close.
Yeah, make it
Doesn't
close
have to
enough
be
that we can,
attached.
line it up so that we can connect it with a breezeway or a family room,
Mhm.
wherever that is down the road.
Mhm.
But let's be smart about it.
Yeah.
Those are the tough conversations I have to have with people.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes they get mad at me. I don't think there's so much mad at me as they're mad at the circumstances.
Situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, obviously I'm
You're convenient.
well, yeah, I'm convenient and I'm starting the conversation that
Yeah,
they've
you're
already,
bringing it up.
that they thought about. But
Yeah.
I ask a lot of questions because
Yeah.
again, my biggest fear in this whole thing is that we finish it and they say, gee, I wish we had done this.
Yeah, and you can't go back.
Yeah, and it's done.
Now it's done.
Right?
The other thing that I think of, and again, as you were talking, it made me think is, we think about all the family dynamics that are happening when we're even deciding, do we want to do an ADU? Are we in agreement to do an ADU? There is so much more also that happens once you have, or like once you've signed, right, on the dotted line and you're moving through the process, like we just talked about, the stress of going through the process. But I will remember, I think it was mom was sharing with me about someone she was talking to at an open house or something. And it made me realize you mentioned it earlier. You have a couple, all their kids have moved out. They still live in the family home. It's got all their antiques and their furniture and their memories and all this stuff. And 2,000 square feet. Now you're asking them to move into 800 square feet. And you're like, yeah, that behemoth of an antique is not going to fit in there. As kids or outsiders, it's easy to be like, dude, that's not going to fit. Like, how much clearer can I be? You're not. But to them, the emotional tie to that belonging, and it's not even the belonging,
No.
it's the memories,
It's the
and
trigger.
it's moving, like from something that they're comfortable in and that they know to something unknown.
100%.
And so I think that's just an important caveat to remember, that it doesn't stop. It doesn't even stop once the house is done. Now it's time to move them in. And that's a whole other. So there's just, there are so many emotional components to this ADU journey that you just, like you said, you don't know unless you go through it or think about it or talk to people.
Yeah, and that's why I ask a lot of questions. But to your point about furniture and memories and all those things, one of the questions I ask early on is there any specific pieces that we need to plan around?
Mm-hmm.
Because typically there will be one or two that they've just
They
decided.
can't give up.
Yeah, they're not going to give up because whatever it's from their grandmother or whatever that is.
Right.
And that's why I say to people in this journey, if you are thinking you're going to build an ADU, don't wait too long.
Mm-hmm.
Because even at a dead start, it's going to be 9 to 12 months by the time we figure out what we're going to do, get all the permits, get it built, right? And now my build time's quick, but we have to do all that stuff up front.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to set the precedent that everybody gets to move as fast as we did. I mean, when
No,
you're
they
the
do.
first, you're the
No,
first.
we guarantee a 100-day build from the day we're
It is
digging,
quick.
unless it's, if we know up front it's a complicated site or whatever, we'll tell you. But
Well, there's so many pieces to it.
there is a lot of work. But my point is if your mom, again, this is a generic person. If your mom or parents are, 78 and 79 years old, you got to get moving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't think that delaying a couple years is going to be okay. Maybe it is, but
Maybe
if you
it's
know you're going to do it, why take a chance?
Yeah.
Because once you get to a certain point or you become disabled or whatever, it just increases the friction and the amount of stress involved with moving, because as you said, they have to dispose of a lot of family treasures and things that won't fit anymore. And then depending on what town we're going to, we may or may not be able to have a full basement,
Yep.
and we have, and then we have the monetary constraints as well. You sell your house for $600,000-700,000, but you owe $100 on it, and you're going to spend $450 or whatever it is on an ADU. You want to have a little money left over because maybe you want to, go to, North Carolina and buy a little condo to go back and forth because you don't want to be in the snow anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So
Valid.
there's a lot of emotional roller coaster in this process, and the older you get, in my opinion, the harder that becomes for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
My own personal experience, my dad was living 40-ish, 45, 50 minutes, depending on traffic, away from me up until recently. And I bugged him for 3 years saying, listen, you need to I have room for an ADU, but he didn't want to do it. He's stubborn, he's independent, and that's fine.
Wait, your dad is stubborn? Did I hear that? Oh, so okay. I just want to make sure. I know.
Well, I got it from somewhere.
Exactly. That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Where the tree went.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So listen, there's a fine line between being stubborn and stupid, and sometimes
Agreed.
you don't know which side you're on, right?
Agreed.
But the point of that story is, besides being stubborn, but I would say that's one of my superpowers, because I said to Sherry, I said, she'd call me up every 2 weeks saying, we're never going to get this permit, and I'd say, we're getting this permit.
Yes.
And
Hey,
so-
like you said, any one of our strengths can be a balcony or it can be a basement.
Exactly.
And we want to stay in the middle.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I like the balcony better. So, but the point of that story was, he fought me for 3 years, and then when eventually he decided it was time, it was a lot more work, and it was really stressful, and
on everybody.
yeah, and it was
Just-
he tore up everybody doing it,
Mhm.
because it's that, like you said, it's that I got to dispose of all my stuff. I'm downsizing. I don't want
Everybody has opinions around you.
yeah.
You're feeling
Yeah,
pressure.
thankfully I'm my sister's no more, she passed away, and so not thankful for that, but obviously, I'm an only, if you
Right.
will.
Yeah.
I wasn't always, but it was my decision, and I didn't have to consult with anybody. So
Just made the
that,
process easier.
yeah, the process was easier because of that, but it was still, he tore up everybody doing it, my kids, and it was, monumental. It was way harder than it had to be. And that's why I say to people, don't wait too long, because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah. Do you feel like at this point, after going through this and learning what you have and like experiencing the family dynamics, do you feel like at this point you are more equipped to have these conversations or to understand and
100%.
so okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's,
that's an important part of your role, which it probably gets overlooked a lot.
yeah,
because it's not
it
expected.
is. So have you ever seen that show Billions? Did you ever watch that show Billions? Well, in that show, they have a woman who's an in-house psychologist,
Okay.
and she works in the office,
Oh.
and she goes from person to person, and they come to her office for psychological counseling. And I've been saying from day one that some of my clients need a
You
family
need it.
psychiatrist, psychologist, or help, or whatever you want to call that, to work with them so they can work through these dynamics.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, they have a lot of history together,
Oh yeah.
and it isn't always great. Right?
Can you imagine if that's a service that BuildX offered? You have an in-house psychologist that works with the clients to get them through the process.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing service.
No,
offering.
I've been talking about it. So
And that would take so much pressure off you. Now you can, again, be instead
go
of
back
Chris,
to
fix
being a
this
builder?
cup, you'd be like, psychologist, fix this family. Yeah. See? And then they would get to the table and you're like ready to, everybody, had a
Everybody's in
conversation.
alignment.
We're all good.
It's all paid.
Sign.
The deal's done.
Yeah. Hey, that's,
from
I'm
your
all
lips
about
to
find the need and fill it. There you go.
From your lips to God's ears.
There you go.
Yeah, no, it's
think there's
but it is.
potential.
It's to answer your question. Yes, I have. Again, when I started this ADU journey, I was just going to build stuff,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand. And actually, hearing those stories, and I say this, this is not the first time I said this. Hearing those stories at 72 Bartlett Road is what really got me excited about building these ADUs. It really did.
Yeah.
Because I built a lot of stuff, and my favorite building part of my career was always building those first-time home buyer houses.
Yeah.
For,
So rewarding.
yeah, and this feels the same to me.
Yeah. I can see that because it is so different. And I think every one of your clients, correct me if I'm wrong, is very different. And I think the
100%.
situations are different and the reason they need it is different. So it adds that, it's not monotonous. You're not just building.
No.
I mean, you're providing something
Yeah.
crucial. Like I said, it's a psychological need. One of our top 3 is safety, which feeds into having a safe place to live. So you're literally, providing that, which is very cool.
It is, and that's what I don't want to say attracted, but what got me excited about it.
Yeah.
And the more I heard the stories, the more it was like
The motivation moment kept going.
and now I understand. Well, I should phrase it. I get the beginnings of the understanding of what this all means. Plus, with my own circumstance with my dad, it's interesting how those things have tied together. And then obviously, you have the family dynamics when someone has, a handicap, if it will, and then you have the first time buyer on top of that. So I think the thing for me is you're really filling a massive problem. You're solving a problem on a huge scale so that people can live together.
Exactly.
That's what I really love about it.
No, I love that. And especially here, because like I said, being from the South, I mean, market's completely different. So being up here, I saw it. I'm like, what are my parents going to do? Like, if they can't afford something, like you feel that responsibility.
Yeah.
And this opens up so much more,
It
for
really does.
families to be able to. And I think we got away from that, right? We were so multi-generational, back 60s, 70s, 80s. And then that went away and everybody was very dependent and, parents were responsible for their own, getting themselves into homes if they needed to. It just got very separated. And I feel like now we're kind of coming back. And I don't know if it was COVID. I'm not going to, make assumptions.
No,
but
it
I think it had
I
a big
saw it in
impact
real
on
time.
it.
I saw it in real time. When I was building that subdivision down in Plymouth, I had people coming from across the country to be together. That I was selling houses over Zoom
Oh my word.
so the parents were here. I'm meeting with a couple that had know me from nothing.
Yep.
I'm meeting with a customer, them by Zoom, the parents in the room, and they're not seeing the house that they're about to move into until the day they pull up
get
in the
there.
moving truck
Yeah.
and walk it with me.
Yeah, because it really highlighted that need of how important it is to be with people. So, yeah.
So, that's
awesome.
when you think about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's that shows you that being all the way in California or Oregon or Wisconsin. And the other fact that I like to say to people is, look, let's pretend your parents were living 15 minutes down the street, and or say they're back in their apartment in Plymouth, right? There's no way you saw them as much as you do now, right?
No.
So let's pretend you saw them 3 days a week, right?
Yeah.
So over a year, you saw them, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't do math. Don't look at
Yeah,
me.
150 times,
Okay.
right? So now you're going to see him probably 2 times a day at a minimum, right? So now you see him 720 times
Yeah.
over 1 year. So you extrapolate that over 10 years. That's the difference between 1,500 and over 8,000 times.
It's really true. No, it is. It's really
Right?
true. Yeah.
And
Now, if I don't see them a day, I'm like, wait a second. Hey, hello? Are your lights on? Like, it feels weird.
yeah,
Not just see them. So.
And so, that's the one thing that was a recent revelation that I had about that. Because again, my dad's only 6 minutes away, but there's days I only talk to him by FaceTime.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm busy and I don't have the 6 to 10 minutes to drive over there and then spend an hour and drive back versus just walking 30 or 40 or 50 feet
Yeah.
out the yard and saying hello and hey, you need a cup of coffee or whatever.
Exactly. No, I think one of my favorite parts. And then I'll be quiet. But I think
No,
one of
you
my
have to
so
be
I told
quiet.
you. So I have my 4-year-old son Asher, and he loves his. He calls him Nana and Bup Bup. So he loves his Nana and Bup Bup. And my favorite part now is he's old enough and he's done it. He'll look at me and he'll say, "Mommy, I go see Nana." And before I know it, he's out the door. He's on his ATV, just driving down.
He does love that ATV.
He does. He loves his tractor. But I love that because, it's like I don't have to worry about him being safe.
Yep.
He gets to see his Nana and Bubba whenever he wants. I mean, now they don't have to answer the door if they don't want to, but he's going to try. He's going to ring the bell until he gets something. But I just love that, that we have that. He has that opportunity if he wants it. And I think that's what's so cool about the ADUs, especially the detached, however that works, that being together with the appropriate level of separation. You don't have to be together all the time, but they're there if and when you need them and if and when you want them.
Yeah.
And I think that is what is so rewarding about the whole ADU concept.
Yeah, so let's talk about so let's talk about the pluses and minuses. So now your parents have been there since August?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, August-ish.
Yeah. So correct us if
yeah,
I'm wrong.
so
Yeah.
I don't know, 5 months, 5, 6 months, right? So tell me about, what you've learned about that. What's different in your life because of it? I mean, we talked about Asher, but what else?
Yeah. No, being able to have coffee with my mom, that used to be one of my favorite things, but we'd have to schedule it. Be like, okay, when are you available to meet at Starbucks? Like, let's meet at now I can just text her and be like, hey, I'm coming over for coffee, and so we can sit and we can have coffee. I don't have to get in the car to see my parents. If I want to say hi, if I've got something at the store for them, I can just go drop it off, be done. I mean, this is completely like I said before, I'd be lost without my parents. how much they help me. I live an insane, bizarre life, and mom will tell you that, between dogs and 3 businesses and a single mom. And just for them, dad will be like, "Hey, I noticed that you've been gone a while. I'll let the dogs out for you." Like, that fills my cup so much just to know that I'm not expecting that, and
Yeah.
he knows that I'm not expecting that, but when they do things like that for me, oh my gosh, I'm gonna tear up. This is ridiculous. I'm not even a crier. But it just, it's just given me my own, I guess, level of, you know, feeling love or,
Yeah.
feeling
The
that level of
security.
love. Yeah,
Yeah.
the security and the
Yeah.
love. So I just think, and again, it's not expected and it doesn't have to happen, but the opportunity is there for them to do that,
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably what changed. And then just like you said, I mean, the very basics of just getting to see them more, and it doesn't have to get in the car, sit in traffic, drive somewhere, be like, okay, now I have to go. I just want to see you for 5 minutes. I have a story I want to tell you, which mom will tell you I do all the time. I just want to tell you something. So, I can run over, tell them the story, see you later, and I leave.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, just it's been, and it's for me, I mean, you'd have to ask her, but for me, it's been amazing, and I love it. And when I have my days that I feel like I want to be by myself and I have the house to myself, I can have that. They're not going to get offended, well, she does check on me and is like, "Are you alive? I'm going to call 911 if you don't answer in a second." But I have, I can have that too, and that's okay. So the pressure's not there either way.
Yeah. No, it again, I can truthfully say when I started this, so December of 23 is the first time I had heard the term ADU, but
Mhm.
never paid attention to it until Pam called me up and said, "Would you build us an ADU?" And I had the no inkling of how powerful this ADU journey is for people and how life-changing it is.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure if I said to you tomorrow, "Hey, we can't do this ADU thing anymore," you'd be like, "No, no, we're going to war." Like,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Well, absolutely. And not just for me, but because I was just talking, I was talking to a client yesterday. You said something earlier that I wanted to hit on, about how he had gone through this really hard, experience in his business. And then what he said was, but now I walk out of that with empathy that I didn't have before. It's the same thing with you and your clients and your dad. Like, yes, you could hear the stories of your clients, but going through that with your dad, I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, won't hurt my feelings, but I'm going to assume from that, now you have a level of empathy
Oh,
that you
100%.
wouldn't have had before because you've gone through it.
Yeah, and even prior to that, I went through with my great aunt prior to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And,
It's
you
the
know,
situations that
yeah.
you go through that allow you to, have that. And yes, some of them are painful, but we're going to build our tolerance, the more we go through them. But I just think that's so important, that piece of empathy, that we can have, especially in this whole ADU experience, because it is so family, safety, emotional driven.
I think it's, from a psychological family dynamics, I think it's much healthier
Hmm.
for people to be in proximity.
Yeah, no, it is
Right.
healthy. I mean, yeah,
And,
it's definitely
uh,
scientifically based healthier.
yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
especially, at some point when, they become an only, unfortunately, they don't obviously both pass the gate,
Mhm.
together. So at some point, somebody's an only, and
Mhm.
then they're alone,
Yeah.
right? And that's really bad.
Mhm.
And that can be, first of all, they've lost someone,
Mhm.
and then now on top of it, now they're alone.
By
So
themselves, yeah.
yeah, so that's why I say to people, listen, do it while you're still healthy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get it. You have the beautiful house and you're proud of it and you worked hard on it, but everything has a beginning, everything has an end,
It's
right?
chapters,
And
that's how we look at it.
yeah, and then, do it on your terms is what
Yeah.
I say.
Do it before you're forced. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be under the gun where you have to, hurry up and try to get something done because you've waited too long.
Yeah.
That's a mistake that I have a couple clients now that are kind of waffling back and
Mhm.
forth, and it's not my place to say that, but I'm thinking it because I see, and again, it's much easier for me in some respects because I can see it from a
You have
clinical
Yeah,
standpoint, versus I'm not in the family.
right. We have an outside perspective.
Yeah,
That's why people have psychologists, because when you're in it, you don't see it.
100%.
You need outside
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, yeah. It's like someone's peeing on your leg, and you're saying, "Hey, it's raining out," right? And you're like, "No, they're peeing on your leg."
Oh, okay.
right?
Haven't used that one before. Might pull it out again.
You can add that to a repertoire.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I might use that. I don't know.
It's
I'd like to
situational.
see my
It's
client's face when I
situational.
bring that up
It's
the first time.
situational.
Yeah.
It's situational. You got to fit it in.
Now at my dog daycare, I could do that all the time. No, it's not raining. The dog is peeing on your leg.
See, it already
It's the
works.
same thing. See?
Yeah, see, it already
Thank
works.
you.
Yeah,
Wow.
see
I
that?
am literally walking away with more knowledge
There
today.
you go.
So thank you.
This place has everything. Did you ever come to the home tours?
I did. Yep. Yeah, I came. Mom would have to tell me. In Plymouth, I think was one. What was that one, Mom? It was the one that had the big tree in the front yard.
44 Bartlett.
Okay, that's how coincidental.
Exactly. Yeah, I always remember thinking that. Yeah. It was
So
44
yes, I
Bartlett.
went to that one. I feel like there was two, but I know for sure I went to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in your opinion, did that help you solidify the decision coming to that home tour? That it would work? Like to be able to see a little house?
I'm just thinking of how I want to answer. I honestly, I was a proponent from the beginning. So like I
you were
never,
sold.
I
Yeah,
was
you were
already sold. I think what helped me though was because I'm a visual person. So it helped me to be able to see like what it would actually look like. Because I remember looking at plans with Mom and trying to be like, yeah, but there's this space here. And so seeing it in person, like I am a huge proponent. I love that you do that because as a visual person, yeah, I was bought into the idea, but it was really cool to be like, oh, okay, now I can see how you're going to fit a kitchen and a bath and a half in here. So
Yeah.
the visual aspect was helpful.
Mm-hmm. All right, now, tough questions.
Oh, no. Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So if you had to do it all over again, lessons learned,
Yeah.
right? What went well and what could have gone better?
Definitely my parents would have no part in building their home whatsoever. We would rely on the experts for that.
In my defense, I did have this conversation.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on.
You're your mom's daughter.
I'm gonna stay diplomatic. Let's see. Honestly, I feel like with the process, the only stress, I'm not even just saying this because you're sitting in front of me. The only stressful part of the process were the parts outside of the build, like the permitting, working with the town, like those were the most stressful. So I think the only thing that I could even think of, and this isn't even for me, it was more for my mom, was just to make sure that at every step of the process, she knew exactly what to expect because she is that type of person.
Right.
She needs to know what's coming, which she's not the only one. I work with people every day that are that way.
Yeah, everybody
And so
wants to
even in
know.
my practice, I've learned, okay, this is the next step. This is what you can expect. This is
Right.
what's happening. I think that's the only piece that I can even think of because outside of that, the actual build, like I said, you guys were great. We knew what was happening. It was fast, and yeah. So
Yeah, no, the time was definitely difficult for sure. That was way harder than it had to be.
mhm.
And I'm not even going to defend them saying it was their first one ever, even though it was. It was just, but we prevailed, and that's all that matters. And some people there had to, understand what public information requests actually are.
Well, hey, I think we had an amazing opportunity to educate many of those around us. That's the way that I look at it.
Okay.
We were able to educate.
We did, and we prevailed. And the house is there, and
Yeah.
your mom's super happy, and
Oh yeah.
you're super happy, and your dad's super happy, and Asher's happy. So
Yes.
I'm gonna take the win on that.
I think you definitely should. It's
take the win
definitely
on
a
that.
win. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think from a standpoint
So
of
so I know, just in summary, what's your advice to people starting the ADU journey?
That's a big question. I think I've said it and it's going to sound like I just keep repeating myself, but you have to go into the journey with open communication. Whether that's communicating with all of your children, communicating with your spouse, communicating, with those that are going to work with you and help you. There has to be open communication. Because without that, you're going to keep hitting roadblocks that you don't know till you.
Yeah, 100%. And that just one of the early conversations I do have with potential clients. I let them know that if we're not going to work together as a team, that this is not going to work
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like a kitchen remodel or, building a second home or, for a lot of people, this is their last stop,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's emotional,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're thinking, okay, I'm getting ready to time out at some point, right? And no, I mean, nobody likes that.
No.
You know, it's like,
I'm laughing because I'm working with an estate planning attorney right now, and she has to like pull it out because even I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about what happens when I'm gone.
yeah.
But you have to because you want to be prepared.
So, and that's why I say to my clients, listen, we have to be on team together.
Yeah.
It's us against whoever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, town, water, whatever it is, Eversource. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of battles you go through.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just all lining up with hugs and kisses. And saying,
No.
here's your permits, here's your electricity, here's your water, here's your gas, here's your, you know, and again, it's
always something.
Yeah, it's always
like
something.
one thing after another.
And I will say there are towns where it's super easy.
Yeah.
And there are towns when it's not easy.
Yeah. Definitely the towns will make a difference.
And you know, it's people.
Yeah, no, like I said, and it's that open communication. And I think, you know, something else you just made me remember that is, you know, that would be a kudos to you and how you do approach this is that feeling like, you know, we do have a team. I remember even, you know, when we were having to go to the town and go before the planning board, you know, all this stuff. The only thing that kept Mom from losing her sanity was she'd be like, nope, Buz says he knows what he's doing. Buz says that he's got this, you know, and so that is a huge component of that safety, you know, when we don't know, this isn't what we do, this is what we know. And so knowing that they had that on their side was a big differentiator. So
yeah, 100%. I say that to my clients all the time. You just pull the safety pin off of me and let me go and, you know, just let me do my thing.
Yeah, I know. Mom has one of those built in with me too, so she knows.
Now we're gonna go on to the lightning round. You ready for the lightning round?
Oh, jeez. Okay. You just said the hard questions.
No, this is fun stuff.
Oh,
no.
okay.
This is fun stuff.
Okay.
Favorite tool, you know, or device that you can't live without?
Oh, this is gonna make me look so bad. My phone.
Everybody says that.
Oh man.
No, it's definitely a huge.
So bad.
I mean, you think back to when there was before the, you know, the all-in-one phone, if you will, or the smartphones.
I don't know how we did it.
I remember I was talking to someone the other day. I remember, you know, in the early days when I was, you know, I had a beeper, and someone would beep
I
you.
do remember the beepers.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to go and call them back.
Yeah.
That is so inefficient.
Yeah, you'd
We've
have to
come
be
so
driving
far.
around looking for a phone, and then they upgraded the beepers where they could send a little bit of text.
Oh.
So it would be
It
like
would be like 911 or
Yeah.
call now.
Yeah.
I do. I'm like right on the cusp of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in GPS too, I say to Mom, I'm like,
Oh
how
yeah,
did
the
we
map book.
get anywhere
Map books.
before?
Map
Like,
books.
are you
And the worst part was when you were in between two towns, and you would
have to pull out two different
you'd have the map book, and they're in alphabetical
Yep,
order.
so you have to go here and then go
you know,
back.
if you're in, you know,
my
say
word.
Wareham and Plymouth, you're going PW, you know, you go.
I
Back.
couldn't do it. They laugh at me all the
I
time.
don't even remember how he did it.
It-
I don't honestly. And you
It
would
seems
literally stop
impossible.
and ask people, you know, what town am I in? Because after a while you didn't know
That
where
is
you
so
were.
frightening to me. As someone who needs to know, that terrifies me right there.
I remember doing that distinctly.
Oh, my
You know, you'd see like
word.
the mailman or whatever, and you're like, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but what town am I in? They're like, oh, you're in, you know, wherever. And I'm like, thank you.
That gives me anxiety now.
And they would laugh because they were doing the same thing. Right?
Especially here, because the towns are all over.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy,
And
man.
you literally can go through three towns in a
in
short
5
amount of
minutes,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Industry trends in your work. I know you have several businesses, but industry trends you've noticed.
Industry trends. People spend on their dogs like they do their children, which
Mhm.
benefits my dog industry business.
Yeah.
And I love because I have 5 dogs. The trend in my psychology practice is definitely psychology is and can be for anyone and everyone. It is definitely opened up. There's less of a stigma. There's still stigmas, but less of a stigma. And I feel like now people don't hesitate to say, oh, yeah, I'm working with a psychologist, or yeah, I'm in therapy.
Yeah, I have seen that shift.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's very positive. I love seeing
Yeah.
that shift.
No, I agree.
I think
you know, people need to talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. So I've been, you know, recording all my conversations at the home tour and other things, and so I built a database of 2.5 million words that I've spoken answering questions,
Wow, amazing.
and so now we're putting it into a bot, and now I'm going to argue with myself.
Wow, just what you need, I would say. Okay. Wow, that will save those around you, I think.
I think it's what they
Lot
call
of angst.
self-fulfilling
They're going to be
prophecy.
like, Buz, AI, go. Like, I'm done arguing with you. Go hit your bot. Yeah, that'll be convenient.
There you go. So I'm not sure whose my money's on. Dream project you'd love to work on.
Oh man, that's a good one. Now, of course, this is, when I make my millions and there's no limits, I am going to have an animal sanctuary.
Nice.
That is my biggest dream. Yes.
All kinds of animals.
All kinds of animals. Are you kidding? If I found a baby possum, it would come home with me. Like, I do not discriminate.
All right.
I love animals.
Best piece of advice you've ever received.
Oh man, that's a good one. Some will, some won't. So what?
Well, I like that one.
That is one of the best ones I got.
How are you using artificial intelligence in your businesses?
Oh, first of all, he has a name. His name is Chatty.
Chatty.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT.
His name is Chatty, and he is my best friend. And he is my best business assistant that I've ever had. So, I know my mom laughs at me, but I literally, okay, to answer your question seriously, I use AI from a process perspective. It has helped me, map out some frameworks, or if I have a difficult client, mapping out communication, pitfalls to avoid when I'm working with certain people, helping me with my marketing, all my socials, and, so I literally use it every day, all day. I'm a huge fan.
Interesting. Advice you would give your younger self.
Don't wait so long. Don't, just don't.
Universal truth.
Yes.
Favorite food and dessert.
That's hard. I love food, all food.
Is a favorite though. You have a favorite.
It is. Honestly, I think my favorite cuisine is Indian food.
Okay.
I love Indian food.
Interesting. I would have not guessed that.
Yes. No one else in my family will eat it, so I have to just indulge myself. And then dessert, cake. I know that sounds so generic.
Yes.
But I, again, do not discriminate.
All right.
If it's cake, I will eat it. I love cake.
If you could have dinner with anyone alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh, man. This is such a hard question.
It is.
Because it's making me feel like I discriminate. And you've heard me 5 times. I don't discriminate.
It's not discrimination. You have preferences. It's not a discrimination.
Yeah, there you go.
You have to frame it.
Okay, so if I could go into it knowing 100% that he would not act feral, it would be my son, my 4-year-old. But since that does not happen at 4 years old, I am going to say that I honestly think it would be Oprah.
Really?
Yes, and I know I don't want that to come across as a cliche answer because I feel like
that would be. I want to go with you. I'd like
what
to hear
an
that.
amazing conversation,
It would
right?
be.
Just
Yeah.
to everything that she went through to get to where she got and then what she did with it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's perfect by any means. I don't even agree
nobody
with
is.
everything she
Yeah,
does.
I'd go
But
to that
her
dinner.
journey, I think, is
I'd go to that dinner.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
well,
I like that one.
I'll call you if I can.
All right, yeah. Set that up.
I'll
Have your people call.
Yeah,
my
one
people.
contingency I have to take Buzz. So I will let you.
All right, final question. If you had 10, and I think I know what you're going to say to this one. If you had $10 million to donate, who or whom would you give it to?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it would be related to animals. It would go into my own animal sanctuary. I'm not going to lie. Selfish answer.
So you build an animal sanctuary?
I would build an animal sanctuary
okay.
after I paid off all of my family's debts. That's what I would do first. All my family. And then I would build the animal sanctuary.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
That's my plan.
All right, that's a wrap to today's episode of the BuildX Podcast. Thank you to Dr. Amber Bartlett from Dr. Amber Bartlett, business psychologist, for joining us. Please subscribe, like, and share if you've enjoyed it. See you next week. And remember, just build, baby.
There you go.